Hey everybody, this is Isaiah from Magic System Monday, and the time has finally come. We finally reached 2,000 subscribers, which is a place I never really knew for sure if I'd get to. It wasn't that I had a lack of confidence in my opinions, but I'm just very used to people not agreeing with anything I have to say, so the idea that 2,000 people would agree with me enough to subscribe is actually quite baffling. But as baffling as it is, it won't stop here. I'll continue moving forward without hesitation, and one day I'll look back on everything I've created and realize how far I've come. Everyone has an opinion, but not everyone's willing to stand on it to the degree that I do. That itself is something worthy of being proud of. So, as a celebration of that fact, let's do a little bit of Q&A. I've gotten a lot of questions in the comment section that I want to take some time to answer, and I also want to take some time to reply to some of the statements that I've heard over the lifetime of my channel. Now the first question comes from quite some time ago, back when I only had maybe 15 or 20 subscribers. He asks, where are the Avatar videos? Well, I'm glad you asked. I know I said I'd make those, but I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it. Now, as you all might know, I did have a podcast before I had the Magic System Monday YouTube channel, and I did do several hours worth of content on Avatar The Last Airbender. Now, unfortunately, I didn't post all of it because I had some quality issues, as well as I realized I just wasn't invested enough to continue posting all of them, although I did make about 10 hours of content total. Ultimately, though, I do not think they are of decent enough quality to suggest me trying to port them over to YouTube. In all honesty, I'd rather just make them all over again, because I have some new opinions anyway. I don't believe anything I said in those videos was wrong, although there are some things I should explain a little bit more. I just don't think I should port those. They're just not good enough. That's all I'm saying. That's not me trying to put myself down or anything, but that was some of the first content I ever created. It took a lot of effort, a lot of research. My mic was terrible, my computer was terrible, everything was terrible. I literally had someone come interrupt me every 30 seconds while I was making that. I kid you not. Our next question comes from Ray Zardo. He asks, how would you make a better magic system than Avatar The Last Airbender or Hunter x Hunter? Now, to be fair, as you all know, I've never watched Hunter x Hunter, and I don't plan to anytime soon, but I'll explain this in another question that's going to come up in just a moment. As for Avatar The Last Airbender, that's actually a really difficult question. The real question we have to ask here is what makes a good magic system? Despite the fact that I've been doing this for about 15 years, no one has ever really been able to sit down and agree on what makes a good one, which is why I came up with the bare bones criteria in the first place, but honestly, it's still much more complicated than that. When we talk about making a good magic system, that's not really a valuable question. The real question is, what do we want and how do we get it? Because even some of the worst put together things in all of fiction still have people that claim that they are the best thing ever. People often say that Fullmetal Alchemist has a wonderful magic system as well. However, if you actually pay attention and study it, you realize that it's slightly inconsistent, and there's also a drastic underutilization of the powers in that work of fiction. So is that really a good magic system? Ultimately, this is something I might have to make an entire video on. But if I was to try to answer the question the best that I possibly could, I would probably, to keep it short, say something like this. It has to tangibly affect the world and the characters in a way that not only affects their strength and the way they interact with themselves and each other, but also the world. It has to be integrated into every facet of the universe, not necessarily just to be complicated, but also to give the world and the universe its own flavor and identity. Moreover, I'd also like to say that it has to have a simple and understandable core idea. Even if some of the facets are more nuanced or complicated, the basic idea that everything surrounds shouldn't be that complex. It is still, unfortunately, more complicated than that, so I don't consider this to be a satisfactory answer. For me, this next one is deceptively funny. This guy says, magic systems? What? Now, if you guys know me, I've already commented on something similar to this in the Edgerunners video. Yeah, people for some reason get really weird about the term magic system. If you're in the writing community in general, you know the term, but for everyone else, for some reason it feels really awkward to them. They don't want to say the term magic because either they feel like it's insulting or they feel like it's like incorrect or disingenuous. I don't really understand the idea of that, or me calling something like jutsus or special powers spells. It's not really incorrect, but for some reason it does rub some people the wrong way, and for those people, I don't know what to tell you, I'm gonna keep doing it. Can you make a video on cursed energy? Well, I could if I was keeping track of Jujutsu Kaisen. I unfortunately do not watch or read it. I remember when it first came out and people were telling me how popular it was, but I've come to learn that people's abilities to tell me that things are popular has nothing to do with whether or not I'm going to like them. So oftentimes, I just ignore people's suggestions when it comes to what to watch or read, because usually I end up being disappointed. I was always a little bit skeptical of Jujutsu Kaisen, because even before I watch something, I can end up seeing evidence that I would enjoy it before I actually start watching it. And with Jujutsu Kaisen, I just hadn't really seen that much of it. And for a while, people weren't even talking about it until like this year, I think. I mean, it has always been on people's mind, but it wasn't as serious as it is recently. Like, people are saying things that are good or hype or whatever, but mostly what people are saying is criticism as well. And also, people have never really explained too much to me the whole idea of the magic system. It's probably not bad, but I'm more worried about execution as opposed to the general idea. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know I can criticize with the best of them. So maybe I'll watch it eventually, maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. If I ever finally watch it, I'll make sure to let you guys know my opinion. Alright folks, the moment you've all been waiting for, here's the $1 million question. Can you cover Haki from One Piece? And the answer to that question is, I could, but why would I want to? Sorry, I know that sounds mean, and maybe I'll do it one day, but One Piece is one of those anime/manga where people refuse to accept criticisms. For example, I have a scan that explains some of what Haki is. I've already studied it a little bit before. I have some things about it that are positive and some things about it that are negative, and I do have evidence for both of those things. But if you watched my Naruto video, I mentioned one little piece of information about Haki that I have a scan to prove is objectively true, and I got at least 24 comments in that one video just arguing about how Haki works. And that was armament Haki, alright? That's not even like advanced conquerors Haki or anything complicated like that. The truth is, if I say anything remotely negative about One Piece, no one's gonna agree with me. The ability to even criticize One Piece in general only came into existence in the past 12 to 18 months. If you check the internet and go anytime beyond the last year and a half to see someone criticizing One Piece, that person was downvoted into oblivion. No one will accept their opinions. And even now, it's still heavily contested. If I look at One Piece and discover that there is a flaw in the magic system, and I talk about it, it's hellfire and brimstone from there. I'm not afraid of it, I just don't feel like it. On top of that, never mind whether or not what I say is canonically true or not, it's especially like this with both dedicated fan bases and dedicated YouTubers. They develop their own opinions that are subtly independent of the actual work of fiction. So even if I say something that is true, and we saw this with the Naruto video, and I show the scans to prove it, if it doesn't match the fandom's interpretation, I'm gonna get fire and brimstone anyway. Now, for all the people who tried to tell me in the comment section that armament Haki is visible, the writer canonically stated that armament Haki was invisible. Now, if there's some reason why it's visible later in the story, I don't know, because I haven't read that far. Now, if he says, well, advanced armament Haki is visible and normal Haki isn't, I don't know. But he did canonically state, at least twice, that armament Haki is invisible. If it's not anymore, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's because everyone has observation Haki and they can see it. Maybe they have spiritual senses or something. I don't know. That's between you and the writer. Additionally, I've tried criticizing One Piece before, but every time I do, the first thing people say is, well, Isaiah, we don't really know anything yet. Even though it's been 25 years. We don't really know enough to claim anything. We only have theories now. So they kind of have this defense of shrugging their shoulders, basically. I don't get to criticize them. Apparently I don't have that right or something. Truth be told, I'm kind of scared to read through One Piece because I have a fear that I'm not gonna like it as much as people tell me that I will. Another person asking me to cover Nin from Hunter x Hunter. I'm just gonna level with you guys. I've never watched or read a single ounce of Hunter x Hunter. That's one of those anime that people tell me are good, but like I said, I don't really listen to people's opinions on what is good or what isn't. Excuse me if that sounds mean. Like, I have a whole channel just filled with my opinions, and I'm telling you people that I don't listen to certain types of opinions. I know that makes me sound like a hypocrite, and if you feel that way, that's perfectly fair. But I'd like to remind you all that people told me Doctor Strange 2 was good, And yes, in case you were wondering, after I made the video on that trailer, I did watch the entire movie, and it was about what I expected. Truth be told, I'm very skeptical of Nin from Hunter x Hunter because people say these really absurd things that, in my opinion as a magic system expert, you should not really feel compelled to say about any magic system. Like, you can't say, this is the best magic system ever because ... because that's far too subjective. When people start arguing about how much quote-unquote sense a magic system makes, usually that's really suspicious to me. It often means there's something peculiar going on there. Sometimes the fans are just coping, or in the case of something like Mahoka, or something with a really technical magic system, oftentimes it doesn't make any sense, and people are just lying about it, basically. Now, does that mean that Nin falls into this category? No, but still. Can you review JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Honestly, my opinions on this are the same thing as Nin from Hunter x Hunter. People make these crazy, grandiose claims that no one should feel compelled to make. We got people in my comment section telling me that this is the best magic system ever created or something like that. Like, that's such a bold claim that no one should feel compelled to say that about anything, because it's objectively untrue in any and all circumstances. But we say these crazy, glazy things anyway. But maybe it's good, I wouldn't know. Truth be told, this is another one of those things where if I criticize it, people are gonna rain fire and brimstone. My personal rule is, if you want me to review something, fine, but if you don't want me to say anything negative about it, please do not request anything of me. That is not fair. Can you make a video on Tensura's magic system? That would be a little bit interesting, but in order to do that, I'd have to watch Tensura, and the truth be told, I don't really like it that much. I got up to episode 15, and it was really painful. Now, it is just my preference. I'm not telling you you're wrong for liking it. I know some other people in the comment section who also requested for me to do this, but it's just a painful experience for me. It's really hard to review things that you don't like, even if the magic system itself was good, because honestly, the whole title system in Tensura is actually quite interesting. It's the most interesting part that I've experienced thus far. But yeah, I don't like the story, I don't like the characters. Most of the magic outside of that, at least to the point that I've gotten, also isn't that inspiring. I don't really care about the fact that it's an isekai, that's not a big deal. But overall, I just haven't really enjoyed it. Also, it's supposedly a comedy. I don't really see it, it's not funny to me. But that's just my opinion. So to answer your question, I'll do it for $2 million. Am I a big Madvocate fan? I wouldn't say a big fan. I do see his videos pop up on my feed every now and again, and I do watch him from time to time. He's pretty cool. I don't really focus on criticism-based content, but I do have a lot of respect for people who actually hold people responsible for making sense of the things that they do. Which is why I make this channel in the first place. Have I read Bleach? I've read about 30-ish chapters of Bleach, and honestly, I did get kind of bored. Quite frankly, it's not my cup of tea. Now, typically when people say that, people will go, actually, no, Bleach is fine, but the anime is bad. Well, I'm not watching the anime, I'm reading the manga. And I understand I'm still in the early stages, where it's kind of slice of lifey, which unto itself isn't really a problem, but I feel like there's a little piece of meat or connective tissue that's missing. That it's making it difficult for me to attach myself to the characters or the world. Like, I don't feel all that attached or invested in anything right now. And even up to chapter 30, the magic system and the world building is giving off critical signs that the writer doesn't really know what he's doing. He hasn't really built anything. He's kind of just sliding by the seat of his pants. Like, at this point in the story, even Naruto had much more detail on the world and the power systems than you could expect in Bleach by chapter 30. Now, I do plan to keep reading it, and maybe I'll cover it in a video one day. I just don't find the series all that interesting right now. You're not good with words, are you? Oh, I'm sorry. Where's your 2,000 subscribers? I didn't realize you were such a public speaker. Am I gonna do any more fight analysis videos? Oh yeah, absolutely. The real question is, what format am I gonna do it in? I know I have the Doctor Strange video that ultimately wasn't that popular, and doing it that way was a lot easier, but I also have the Ruby fight scene video that technically did okay, but I don't really like it. So the question is, which format do we want? Do we want the old format where I actually just record myself talking over the video? or do you want like an actual structured video? It would take longer and it'd be a little bit more annoying, but if you want, I can do that. What are my favorite power systems? That's an interesting question. Truth be told, I don't have any. That sounds silly, right? Even out of the things I've created, because I've been doing this quite a while, I don't think I really have any favorites. I have the things that work and the things that don't. Those are the two categories I put things into. I don't really have favorites even out of my own things. I'm just kind of weird like that. I don't even have a favorite color, or even a favorite food for that matter. I have ones that I eat or choose more frequently than others. That's just because of convenience. I ultimately just don't have favorites. To me, a tool is a tool. What's my favorite series? I also don't have a favorite series, although I do have some things that I like a lot. Alright, this one's not so much of a request as more of a demand. You go over Magic Systems in Black Clover? Yes. I did watch at least 70, 80-ish episodes of Black Clover back in the day, and assuming the animation doesn't stay as bad as it was in those last few episodes that I watched, I have no issue with continuing it to make a video on it. There are definitely things about the Magic System in Black Clover that I totally like. There are also things that I don't like. But I'll save that conversation for when I finally make the actual video itself. Do an Owl House video? Okay, sure, eventually. I'm not completely opposed to that. Have you heard of Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy? Yes, I have actually. I've read all 3 books. I do like the system for the most part, although it's not the most interesting system ever. Now, the writer uses it in a very decent way. I wish we had more depth on some of the powers. I think the series, ironically, is held back by the fact that it focuses on Mistborn. Now, the Mistborn series has about 3 power systems, but the main one, called Allomancy, has a certain number of powers. I'm not going to tell you how many, but it's divided into 2 categories. There are Mistings. Each person who is a Misting has one of the powers, and then there are Mistborn. Mistborn have all of the powers, and the powers are based off of metals. Each metal has a power, and when you consume it, it allows you to use that power. The problem is the series focuses so much on Mistborn, who have all the powers, and who are using them in combination, and are also innately powerful for some reason, that it rarely ever gives us a chance to focus on individual Mistings, who focus on their individual powers, and we don't get to see that much nuance with any of them. I recognize that he fixes this in the later eras of Mistborn after Series 1, but that's a whole conversation for another day. Now, as for those of you who are interested in reading the series, the first 3 books, I will say the first book is nice. The second book and the third book have nice things in them, but the second book drags on terribly. And also, to any of those this concerns, Kelsier is an absolute idiot. I don't know what he was thinking in that first book. He's crazy. Do I have any power systems, and if so, could I share them? Well, it's a funny thing you mentioned that. I have so many that I actually stopped counting them. Some of them are connected, some of them aren't. Some of them are standalone magic systems, some of them are meant to be combined with others, etc, etc. Some of them require some context, and some of them I don't really feel like sharing right now because, one, if I share too much, I run the risk of seeming kind of egotistical, because I, as a person who have studied a lot of magic systems, sees a lot of flaws in magic systems that can be fixed, and I also see some things that need to be kept in mind when you're making a magic system. So there are a lot of problems that I solve with a number of my magic systems that if people had implemented those same things in their own magic systems, even if they were different from mine, then that story would have been 20 or 30% better. In fact, I even have a list of some magic systems that are debatably similar to a few that I've created, that if they had just used my system instead, they could have had the exact same story and had it make much more sense, with only really slight differences. And that sounds like a crazy claim, but honestly I can back it up. I just don't want to have to explain this and make myself sound as egotistical as it might sound. But if you want, I will explain some of my magic systems. I will explain 2 of them. However, the video is getting kind of long and I think I'm gonna have to cut it short here. Hopefully I can make that video explaining one of those magic systems in the next couple of months or so. In any case, this is Isaiah from Magic System Monday, and I'll see you guys next time.